So, base building is a huge aspect of No Man's Sky, and in my opinion, one of the best aspects of No Man's Sky. And with a near infinite number of planets you can build on, you may be thinking which planet is actually the best one to build an epic base on. And of course, a lot of it will come down to what type of base you're planning on building. For example, a mining base, a farm, an underwater base, an orbital base would all benefit from being on different planets. So in this video, I'll go over which planet type is best for each specific type of base. So make sure you stick around until the end, not to miss anything important. Before getting stuck into the types of planets, one thing I will say is the best systems to build in are systems with a good amount of planets, say at least 4 or 5. Why? Well, you'll have close access to a wide variety of resources that you'll need to build a decent base in. It's no use building a base in a system with just 2 planets and no resources available to you. Also, 3-star economy systems are always better. So, first up, when talking about what planet to build a base on, a lot of people will go to the obvious answer, and that is a paradise planet. And that's not a bad shout at all, because there are a lot of good reasons to build on a paradise planet. They tend to have incredible views, no sentinels, no storms, they have water often, and they also tend to be fairly rich in resources. And for all of these reasons, that makes them a very popular choice for players when deciding where to build a base. But paradise planets aren't always the best choices for a base, and that depends on what type of base you're wanting to build. So, if you want to build a house, or an outpost, or a mountain top retreat, or a funky sculpture, then a paradise planet is a fairly good idea. You're never going to be threatened by sentinels or storms, and you'll have a cracking view to look out over as well. But if you want to build a different kind of base, say an orbital base or a mining facility for example, then paradise planets aren't the best choice at all. And the reason for this is whilst paradise planets are rich in resources, they tend not to be very valuable resources, so you wouldn't be making much money building a mining facility on a paradise planet. And especially since Hello Games have nerfed the values of a lot of resources you can mine in the updates that were released last year. So, which planets are best for building a mining base on? Well, as I just said, I can tell you it's not a paradise planet, and that's because you don't tend to find very many valuable resources on paradise planets versus some hostile planets. So, you'll often find that the best planets for building a mining base on tend to be hostile planets. So, frozen ones, toxic ones, and so on. I've visited this insanely big mining base in the past that was mining activated indium from the planet, which, back in the days before Hello Games nerfed the value of the stuff, would allow you to get over 1 billion units every single day. But these days, you're still going to make millions, but nowhere near as much. But the point is, hostile planets will allow you to mine more valuable resources like activated indium, activated cadmium, activated copper, and activated emerald. Any planet that has these resources on means there's going to be storms, whether they're ice storms, superheated storms, toxic storms, or whatever. So do a scan from space, and if these resources are present on the planet, you know you can build a top quality mining base there and make yourself millions of units. And also don't forget to look for an A or S class mining hotspot whilst you're down on the planet's surface, to be able to mine even more resources in less time. So, what about if you want to build an underwater base? Well, first of all, you're going to need to be in a system that has water, obviously. But a lot of the time you'll notice that planets that have some water but not much, like lakes and such, they aren't really good for building underwater bases on because the water is too shallow. And to be fair, the deepest water I've ever come across in the game was only just over 100 U deep, and while that may seem deep enough for a decent underwater base, it's nothing compared to how high you can build on the ground. I'm sure there will be people who have found deeper water, but again, it's quite rare, and it depends on how ambitious you want your underwater base to be. If you want to build Atlantis, or if you'd prefer to build a small underwater outpost, it really does make a difference. If it's the former, the deeper the water, the better. So the question is, where can you find planets with water that is that deep? Well, your best option is to find planets with giant oceans, and you can usually tell this from space, as you'll notice a small amount of landmass and a hell of a lot of water. So what you want to do is search for a planet with oceans. And the good news is there tends to be a lot of lush planets with giant oceans, so you could get a nice planet to build your underwater base on. If you don't know how to find lush and paradise planets, I have created a video in the past showing you how to do exactly that, so go ahead and check that out. I'll leave a link in the description below for you. And once you have found a planet with giant oceans, head on down and fly out over sea and look for a small island in the middle of nowhere so you can then land your starship on it. Then you can jump on into the water and have a swim around and look for the deepest area of water around you. And if all is well, you'll get water that's at least 100 units deep. You can then of course use your terrain manipulator to make it a little bit deeper, but do be wary of the ground possibly coming back into your base after a few days or weeks of saving the base. If you're finding this video useful so far, it would be totally awesome if you could spend just a couple of seconds supporting my channel by hitting those like and subscribe buttons. Right, let's talk about orbital bases. Now, these are probably my favourite types of base, but equally they can be the most frustrating to get right. Initially, of course, anyway. I have recently created a video showing you the best technique to build an orbital base, so go ahead and check that video out as well if you're not sure on how to do it. I'll leave a link in the description below for you. Right, enough about that. You want to know which planet is best to build an orbital base on. And for these, it is fairly simple. If you want to build a really high orbital base, we're talking hundreds of you off the ground, you want a planet without any clouds. Why no clouds? Well, when you're building an orbital base super high up and there are clouds, the base building camera goes all funky and you can't actually see what you're building half the time because the clouds take over. This is technically a bug, but until Hello Games fix it, or indeed an orbital base update is given to the game, we're stuck with airless planets. Which isn't that bad because there will never be any storms and the views are spectacular either way. Now, these planets without clouds come under the planet biome dead. So when you're searching for planets without an atmosphere, any of the following types of planet will be fine to build an orbital base on. Abandoned, airless, dead, desolate, empty, forsaken, lifeless, life incompatible, low atmosphere, or terraforming catastrophe. However, if you're not bothered about your orbital base being super high and you are instead just wanting to float it just off the ground, say 100U or whatever, you'll need to do another technique to build it, but you can then choose any type of planet you want because it won't be high enough to be affected by the clouds. Moving on, if you're into the farming side of No Man's Sky, the best planets for these is going to vary as well depending on what you're farming. For example, let's say you want to build a liquid explosive farm. The best planet for this type of farm is a toxic planet because you can store half of its ingredients outside and the rest in the biodome next to it. This is a very lucrative farming method as liquid explosive is worth almost 1 million units a pop, so you'll be super rich in no time at all. Another example is if you want to build a circuit board farm. The best options for these are lush planets which contain cactus flesh and star bulb, because they can be placed outside in those environments as well. So with farms, it entirely depends on what you're planning on farming, but you could find that toxic planets or frozen planets are a better option than lush planets. And there you have it folks, there are the best kind of planets you want to be building a base on for mining bases, underwater bases, orbital bases and farming bases. Any other kind of base can of course be built on any planet you desire. And I hope you found this video useful, and if you're still here, it would be totally awesome if you could support my channel by hitting those like and subscribe buttons. I will be doing more videos like this in the future, along with videos covering all other aspects of No Man's Sky, like amazing locations, glitches, update rumours and more, so you don't want to miss out on those, right? And as always, thank you for watching and catch you next time.